that the whole school bickering thing, and especially with it being this way, that it's all basically kind of done passive instead of like face to face and actually have a conversation. Brutal.
Matt, welcome to the show, man.
What's up, man? How are you? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining me. Glad we got to connect. Pumped to have this conversation. And first and most important question is, how are you doing? Like, actually, for real, how are you doing?
Overall, things are great. In the micro details of day-to-day stuff, I feel like I'm in it.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm in the grind, in the work, figuring some things out. But that's kind of how it's always felt. And so I'm doing a better job of taking care of myself while I do that, to avoid that inevitable burnout that comes with entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Yeah, entrepreneurship is a funny thing, because I think it's like, at least nowadays, it's sold on social media as like this super shiny, cool thing that everyone should do. And very few people talk about sort of the dark side of it. I mean, there's a dark side to pretty much anything, especially if you're trying to do something great. But
I think
what
there's
sort of
just a dark side to everything, man.
Yeah, there is. Like, being an athlete, working out, pretty much everything. What if,
Everything's got a shadow.
yeah, what have you found as sort of your biggest hurdles, challenges, setbacks that you face as an entrepreneur that someone might need to be aware of?
There's probably some false idea that there's this moment that you get X done, and then there won't be some other shit to get done. Like, it's just not how it works. Like, there is no coast. There is no autopilot gear for being an entrepreneur, not if it's going to work.
Yeah.
So it forces you to be really intentional with your time, and that's probably something I didn't fully grasp when I started. I also didn't grasp when I started what focusing my effort long-term really looks like. When you're speaking in months instead of decades.
So
I think basically just being honest with myself a lot earlier, that all of the struggles along this path are on the path I chose. And they are for me to figure out if I want to succeed. Keep figuring them out.
Yeah. Because, some days there is like, there seems to be so much, what's the word? Maybe like easiness to like a 9 to 5, where it's just like in, out, boom, done.
Not for me, man.
But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I've never been able to comprehend that. It's never been a road that I want to go on. But like, it's some days where I'm like it's the middle of the night and I'm trying to get some stuff done that no one else is going to do, because, I don't have any employees or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, it would have been cool if I had clocked out at 5 and I could have watched this baseball game that I wanted to watch, and, had dinner with my wife or fiance or whatever the case may be. But then it's like, there's so much, I don't know, fulfillment in staying up late at night and producing a podcast that 4 people are going to listen to. When I first started, and it's like, so you just keep going because you feel like that's where your heart is aligned with. And I just don't think there's any other job, quote unquote, that could fulfill that sort of sense of purpose that you and I and most entrepreneurs probably feel to do the work that they have to do.
All that shit, man, that delaying the gratification, right? Like, that's the difference, is understanding that, of course, I'm going to fucking stay up. I'm building my dreams. Like, that's why. Like, it's that being so in love with what this idea is that you're building, that any of the momentary discomfort doesn't fucking register. Like, why would I give something else my energy that isn't this life that I'm in love with trying to build? And so, yeah, man, obsession and anything else comes with it. And as long as you can stay out of that path of letting others validate what you do and take it on yourself as your mission, your thing, you can stay in it. But it is that. It is a lot of those late nights. It is doing that thing because, you're obsessed with it. I don't want to think about other shit. And if I'm going to be occupied or have the 9 to 5 and pretend that comfort blanket's the one I want, which I know better at this point, but being able to, oh man, I want to be the one in the game, right? Like that puts me in the game instead of just deciding like, I agree to sell you my time for this. Instead, it's like, nah, I'm going to invest it in me. I'll roll the dice on me. I'm down for it. At least I'm the one playing. Like, I'm not much of a slot machine guy if we're gambling. I want a game that I can feel involved. That my action, my energy fucking makes a difference to the success I see. I love it.
Do you have a hard time with people who don't have that? I only ask because I coach a 16-year-old baseball team.
Okay.
And when I was 16, I was just obsessed with baseball. There was not a chance that we were going on a family vacation, that I was missing a practice or missing a game, nothing. And I coach these 16-year-olds now, and they're at the level, like, they can get recruited. There's some talent there. Like, there's some stuff on the horizon that could be really cool. And I just see with most of them, there's just a level of commitment that is, it's not there. And I don't know. I can't force them to show up. I can only give them the tools. But then I feel myself like sort of resenting them a little bit because like they have all these opportunities that I feel like I didn't have, and maybe that's a me thing. And all this stuff comes up. And I don't know. Do you ever have those sort of feelings when you look at people in your life, or potentially people you see on social media, or those that come to your retreats, or anything like that?
Not anymore. I did. Yeah, I did for a long time, man. I got frustrated. I got resentful. I got in that comparison mode that if I had that or if I did this, I would have blah, blah, blah. And all this fucking wasted energy spat around at what other people's choices are. And I don't honestly give much of a shit anymore. I'm going to show up and provide my best, and what those people choose to do with it, that's very little to do with me. I want to inspire. I would like people to dive in, but I'm also so painfully aware at this time that I can't do it for anyone else. So getting frustrated only will push them further away from it.
Yeah.
Instead, just continuing to show up and be an example of it, of putting my best foot forward, of always showing up and being consistent, of being impeccable with my word, of not taking the hard days personally. I mean, I think being that example, right? Like, because most of these kids that you're dealing with, it's not like it's a learned thing at this point to avoid it. It's just they've never known otherwise. They're not aware.
Yeah.
And chances are their parents aren't aware. And if opportunity has always fallen into your lap, then of course you don't see it as special. It takes awareness.
Yeah.
And you're too young to have it, man.
Right.
Same reason it's easy to think high school and college sports last forever whenever you're in that thing. And like, what a fucking stupid small window of life it really is.
Oh my God. Yeah.
How utterly unimportant in the grand scheme of things, yet it did shape a lot of who I became. But that's based on the intention that I put into it. It's not magic. It's what I got from that journey.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, because some of them right now, back to my example of my 16-year-olds, we have 20 guys on our roster. And if you know anything about baseball, only 9 guys play on the field. So we have 11 dudes sitting a lot. They're sitting a lot. And 20 on a roster is a lot. And I get that. That's wasn't by choice. Just happened that way. But so you're seeing what's happening and what's in front of you. And then you get responses from the parents like, hey, we all paid the same amount of money. Why aren't we all playing the same amount? Because it just doesn't work like that anymore. And so
Not
you
at
can
the level
see
we're at.
Right. And you can see where if the parent says that, they know they're saying it to their kid, and then their kid's just thinking that he deserves to
Well,
step on the field because their parent paid this money.
no,
And I
it's
get
either
where,
that or their kid constantly is going to be mixed with feeling like never enough.
yeah. So it's
Who's he
very
fucking
hard.
playing baseball for?
Right.
I mean, by 16, like you're looking at like late high school age, right? Like
Hmm.
middle to late high school age. This is that kind of point where are you playing sports recreationally and like want to have something to do that's intramural and some grab ass? Or are you trying to fucking play?
Hmm.
And like it's a very different thing at that level. And a lot of times it's parents that are delusional.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate. But you know, things aren't fair in sports. There's talent, there's hustle, there's want, and want alone doesn't get you on the field. It's a fucking bummer, but also like where else in life does it fucking work out that just because you showed up, you get to be part of it? You have to earn your spot. You have to be valuable. And there's a lot of ways to be valuable on a team other than being some superstar athlete.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can remember being on teams where like we had leaders that weren't necessarily good athletes, but they just held energy.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. I mean, showing up is always going to be half the battle. And then once you do show up, what do you do from there? And you made a really good point about that. Like, it's not always the person on the field who is the game changer, right? It's like, especially if you're a young anyone, like if you're a young person in business, you're a young entrepreneur, you're a young athlete, what you can learn from watching other people do the thing is actually quite extraordinary because those same things are going to happen with you. That same play is going to develop, that same setback, that same challenge, that same obstacle, that same fucking you just got punched in the face. Like, okay, I saw this guy sort of handle it this way, and he got back up pretty quickly and managed to pivot and move forward in the right direction. Okay, maybe I want to take that and do that. Okay, this play developed here. He didn't do the right thing. He wasn't in the right position. Maybe I would go here. Like, there's so much to be developed, but instead you're sitting on the bench or sitting on the sidelines thinking, I'm not playing, so I just might as well, talk to my buddy about, fucking
Yep.
Snapchat. And I get you want to have fun with your friends too. That's a very important part of sports. But there's also a point where if you actually want to be the person who's really good under pressure and shows up when the lights are the brightest, then you got to learn that stuff beforehand and then have that moment when you step on the field. But then like youth, we can get into, we don't need to get
Like,
into all the
I
youth.
haven't ever seen any athletes that if they don't have it by 16, it magically turns on after.
Yeah. And there's,
Maybe you get some guys that get into triathlon, stuff like that later in life and actually realize like how underapplied they were at some other point in their life. But that drive has been instilled before then. Whether it's healthy or not is a different conversation, but that drive is typically there by then or it isn't.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not saying it can't change.
Yeah.
Because everything can. But there has to be an awareness of I can change and it's my choice. And that's a pretty tough thing for a 16-year-old in athletics to actually get.
Yeah. Yeah. Nowadays it's more challenging than sort of, I don't know, ever before, but there are different, let's say different challenges that they're facing that you and I didn't face as young athletes with social media and
I fucking bet, man.
Things of that nature. Which,
I have no interest in being a young kid right now.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because, especially if I'm a baseball player and I have one good swing and I hit a home run, I can put that on Twitter. Now that's the video everybody sees, but I'm actually capable of doing that on a consistent basis. And then I get thrown into the sort of the trenches with the actual big dogs. And I seem like now I'm not worth a damn. I'm not good enough. And so now we have this internal struggle of my identity and who I really am. And it's very complicated. And so just like, a lot of stuff in life, it boils down to sort of your values and your identity and how you want to show up. But young people aren't.
Give other people the permission to decide your value.
Yeah.
It's not mandatory. You don't have to do
that. You sure?
Oddly enough, yeah, man. I sought outside validation a long time. Growing up in a house with a high achieving brother, made me dim my own light on achievements a lot. Didn't feel good enough. really felt for a long time that if I would have just been him, everybody would have been happier.
Hmm.
But all of those unique traits that I have are part of what have made this life what I want it to be. But it was tough. And man, I can't imagine growing up with the social media thing, especially being a young kid that was seeking attention and validation. Like, oh man, I would have been a clown. I would have done whatever got me attention. I know that I would. I'm so glad that I caught it late enough in life. And like, I've been deeply involved with social media for a long time now. Like, I've been creating content on one platform or another since 2009. And so it has been a battle. I can't imagine dealing with it at that age, and then also dealing with it in that microcosm that is high school, where everyone does think it's important. You know, it's one thing to be a 41-year-old man and not give a shit. But I've earned some right to not give a shit, I suppose, or I've earned enough repetition there to like realize what does and doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sure shit didn't know when I was 15.
No.
No way, man. I can't imagine dealing with it. I can't imagine dealing with the isolation, the bullying, the nonstop, like that you don't ever get away from it. That the whole school bickering thing, and especially with it being this way, that it's all basically kind of done passive instead of like face to face and actually have a conversation. Brutal.
Yeah. Anyways, speaking about what's going on with your life right now, what's some of the most important things, or what's on the top of your mind, maybe biggest issue that you're thinking about or working through, or anything like that?
So lately I've been working a lot with clients about ways to build our mindset around creating discipline.
Okay.
How do we do that? Because I think a lot of times we can also build in this idea of our own identity that, like, I'm not disciplined, like it's in my genetics. And it's simply not true. Like, you just didn't learn how. Discipline is a learned skill. And so often people mistake discipline with, like, oh, I procrastinate, or oh, I don't have motivation, or these other things like those, or I struggle with my nutrition, or I struggle with consistency. What you're saying is discipline. You're putting another mask in front of it. That's you have one of the side effects of a lack of discipline. Discipline's the fix. You know, being able to take action toward the things that you say are important on a consistent basis. And so we set some boundaries with better ways to make progress long term. And for me, working with clients, like, I want to look at long term as like from today till you're dead. That's my concern. Anything that's happened before that, I don't really give much of a shit about. Let's figure out how to rewire it and decipher it so that it's useful for us moving forward. But it doesn't matter. We can't do anything about it. So we can only affect these days in front of us. So I keep the focus there. And in doing that, like, we set non-negotiables, we set up some different things that help us stay in the mood and feeling and down-regulated, out of stress, less reactionary, so that we do continue to make the good choices that align with who we want to become instead of who we've been. And so where that's lately fallen is this idea that, like, if we're really honest with ourselves about the things that you're trying to be disciplined, I bet guarantee that you make 10 mistakes or fuck ups this year. Right? Fair enough. So in that, what happens after your fuck up is that now 5 extra days or 10 extra days of me beating myself up and getting really negative and letting myself know we didn't get perfection, so why are we even bothering? And then we dig this hole deeper and deeper. Because if we do that, now we're talking about not just fuck ups that are 10 days out of 365. You're now talking about adding 100 days because of this 10-day window of backlash that you beat yourself up with before getting on track again. because of this all or nothing concept that if I missed one day, fuck it, throw it all out, we'll start again Monday. Where that real change is that extra third of a year that you could be back on track doing something more valuable than digging the hole deeper that you like, that off the mistake you made. And you still have the same amount of mistakes. Like, I don't need any more perfection. I need more awareness around like, oh, I did that thing. I came off track. I'm back on track. Without judgment, without that beating ourselves up, without lowering our own value. But getting back on track, not out of spite for what we've done, but out of love for who we want to be. That's a very different approach. So that's really where I've been focusing a lot of thought, is around that concept of how do I make it more accessible for people to look at discipline as something that's achievable? Because perfection gets in the way. And then perfection and this fear around perfection turns into procrastination, which leans into anxiety.
Yeah, because, a lot of times people see this sort of their lack of discipline as like a character flaw. And I get that, because for an extended period of time, you quote unquote haven't been disciplined. But like you're saying, if you can reframe it into, oh, it's a skill that I can learn, just like anything else that I potentially got good at in my life, that's really important, because now it's a design flaw, not a character flaw. And I think those things are important to make a distinction. How do you, I don't know if you have a definition for discipline, but how do you think about it sort of as an umbrella view, and then maybe getting deeper into like habits and things of that nature?
So I guess discipline would be my ability to take action in alignment with where I want to be, instead of letting how I feel in the moment make any decisions for me. I think that's discipline. That I do the thing no matter what. How I feel doesn't make a difference. Not today, because I'm so in love with where I'm going that I'll deal with it today. I can do it down. I know what my minimums are. I know what it is. And then overall with our habits, right? It's not letting that feeling of I don't want to get a vote. I know that voice in my head that doesn't want to do shit. I just don't listen. It's still there. I figured at this point, like, it would go away at some point. But it doesn't. There's always a period of override. There's always a period of deciding that I'm doing this, and this challenging voice inside my head saying, why are we doing this? What's the point? It doesn't matter. Blah, 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 blah. It hurts. I don't want it. But I love how I feel after I win. And I think there's a lot of ways to build some resilience to that, to test that feeling. A lot of that for me is finding ways to microdose it, right? Like getting up and going for a 2-mile run in the morning with my wife when I'm not training for a thing. I don't ever want to go.
Yeah, God. Oh, my wife always wants to run too. Huh.
Yeah, I don't ever want to go. It takes 20 minutes, and I've never felt bad after.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I feel great. My day feels great. My mood is better. So like overriding that voice with 20 minutes, probably even less than, because the 10 minutes when I start is the really shit part, and then I'm fine. But like, I got to be able to override that voice for 10 minutes. And then I'm free, and then I'm clear, and then I get the reward, and then I get the feeling of accomplishment. Otherwise, I give in to him, and he just stays the same that he was yesterday. He stays stagnant, being that version of me that's outdated. So I put the habits in, I look at them like that. Using the cold plunge. Sucks. I do it twice a day. Why? Because it makes me feel better. And I do the things that make me feel better. If I choose not to, stop fucking saying I care about feeling my best. Be honest with yourself. Say, well, I only really kind of care about feeling my best. But I have to be able to override that voice for it. The same voice that shows up in the sauna after 40 minutes and just starts yelling about wanting to get out. Man, that's when you get to sit and you're like, we're okay. We're going to be just fine. I've been uncomfortable before. We're not in danger. Being able to walk toward discomfort, and that's the key to creating adaptation, right? That's what works with our muscles. That's what works with any of our other skills, is you have to do things, make mistakes, and learn from it. And it takes reps. Start doing the reps. Be more concerned with how am I consistent 300 days this year instead of being 60 days in a row. You think in the grand scheme of your life of 70 years that those 60 days were the turning point? Like, it's not some magic pill that fixes everything. It's integration. What did you learn from the experience, and how do you play it forward to continue to grow?
So then probably the initial stage before all of that is getting people to actually envision a future that's better than the one they have currently.
So the way I kind of work stuff with clients is like a 4-stage. There's inspiration, there's awareness, there's intention, and then there's action. And so typically if we've gotten on a phone call or we're starting to work together or any of that, like, inspiration box has been checked.
Yeah.
You've already decided to take some different action than what you've been doing in your life, and casting this vote for I'm changing, I'm doing some different shit. Because if you don't do different things, nothing changes. I don't care how much you think about it. I don't care how many books you read. If you don't do different things, it doesn't change. So in that first 3 months that I work with someone, our biggest focus is around just awareness, because an awareness without judgment. Like, I can't get someone to fix a leaky pipe in their house if they won't acknowledge there's a leaky pipe in their house. If they just keep saying, I don't know, man, the drywall in here just keeps getting wet. Like, man, that's not the issue. We need to address the pipe in there. You can't just shut the door and not go in there and never fucking deal with it and let the floors rot out. It's easier just to go address the pipe, man. You're not an embarrassment because you had a leaky pipe. Go fix it. And so building some awareness around why we have these habits, why we self-sabotage, where are obstacles, how often do I typically get in my way, where's my hard part for in the next couple weeks, because I know I'll be excited and then I know it's going to fade. When's that coming? How do I set myself up for it? Like, don't be a fucking liar to yourself. It's coming. The days you don't want to do this shit are on the way. So let's set up a strategy to deal with it. And so we build that awareness in that first 3 months around, like, what are the habits that who I want to be already has? Is he a more disciplined version? Is he a more present version? Is he a more honest version? Is he a more authentic version? What's his self-care routine? How is he integrating the information he learns? What books does he read? What type of people does he surround himself with? I don't give a fuck about any of the materialistic things, man. Those are side effects. And so focusing on these actual things that you're in control of, we get to put the plan in place. The next 30 days of working with someone and focus on intention. Let's build in that fucking why and the purpose behind why we're changing. What's it for? And let's fucking dig all the way in and figure out what this is for, so that you know where that fire lies every time that the voice tries to say, let's not do it today. Connect to that. Connect to that same feeling that I have, that if I don't do this, I will die without living out the things I want to. That's what happens. If I don't take action, if I don't create the life I want, I fucking die with a bunch of wondering what if. And I want to know what I'm fully capable of at my best. So that's what keeps me connected.
Yeah.
And so setting that intention for people, so there's always this deep thing of why. And finally, we build that last 30 days around what's the actions. What's the plan of attack? How do we set this up? What are the habits that are going to be this? When do we set them into our daily routine? What is our floor and ceiling to know that we can always hit this window of it? That I know it's not going to be perfect on some days. I know I'm not going to have 90 minutes to go to the gym. So how do I check the box and say I gave a shit about myself in 10 minutes? I need that plan too. Because the idea that there's this everyday special magical routine that's going to work out is just horseshit. So it's having a strategy.
Beautiful. When did sort of in your life did this become, or did you realize that this sort of mindset was important? And when did you sort of make the switch in your own life, obviously, because you have to do the work before you can help others do the work. That's sort of the cornerstone of being a great coach, that some of my fellow baseball coaches don't follow, but that's a different conversation. Matt, anyways, back on that. Yeah.
Bit of a long-winded story, but we'll get through it. The major kind of reframe for me was in 2014, my dad died. My father passed away from pancreatic cancer after an 11-month fight, from something's wrong with dad to now he's dead in 11 months. And he was 62 when he died. Now, I don't believe he did the best things of taking care of himself. There's a number of things I can chalk up to as not great decision makers for long term. But he passed away at 62 the day before I turned 31, and it was really, really loud to me about possibly being halfway through my life. And if I was halfway through my life, what does that mean? If I'm honest about it without, no, we have long, blah, blah, blah. Fuck it. Just, what does it mean? It means I have 1,612 weeks to do everything I've ever dreamed of. And I'm 41 now. It's been 10 years. Oh, it's 1,073 weeks. That's how many I got left. So I stay focused on it. That pivot just made me want to take the brakes off, man, and figure out what I can really do. And so later that year, I won my second world championship in the Highland Games. I started my apparel company, Not Dead Yet, later that year. And then 2 years later, got another wrench thrown into the things with my knee kind of giving up. So I decided to, at the end of my 2016 season, have an ACL surgery, then rehab at 2017, and come back in 2018. Didn't go that way. Had 8 additional surgeries and a total knee replacement in a 3-year time span. Chronic pain, never returning back to my sport. Didn't go as planned. So that putting me in this spot of loss of identity as an athlete, of not just as an athlete and a competitor, but like, my body doesn't work. Like, I can't walk more than 150, 200 yards a day. Like, I travel with a cane. I can't go up and down stairs. Like, I'm a fucking problem and I'm a liability. And being trapped in that, like, I really wasn't ever prepared for it. Because this isn't her. This doesn't understand it. He just knows this machine I'm in doesn't fucking operate with the same rules that it has for the last 35 years. And, it got really dark. Value what I'm worth. What I thought the future was going to be, what my plans were. And came to a real honest point that if I don't figure out how to get out of the chronic pain in that window, that, like, I'm going to fucking kill myself. I don't know when, but I know sure as shit that, like, I won't ride the clock out until old age like this. And at some point it'll be too much. And, that was really honest. It was a really honest thing. I wasn't saying it with any type of, I don't know, trying to get an emotional response. I didn't share that with anyone for 5 or 6 years. So being honest with myself about that gave this freedom of, like, so if that's what happens if we don't solve this, then everything's open. Then I'm open to try fucking anything. And if we've tried everything and we have no solutions and you can honestly say you gave it your best, then no judgment, man. But until then, let's try everything. So I did. I got into breath work. I got into cold plunging. I got into changing my diet to carnivore. I got away from alcohol. I lost 100 pounds. I continued to run my business. I leaned fully into entrepreneurship. I left my 9-to-5 career in 2017 after they let me go and decided to not pursue anything else in that line of work. I spent 10 years in a career building an outside sales job and had a great career. Just didn't want to do it anymore, man, because what's the fucking point? And since then, I've just fully leaned into the ride. Just trying to be my best for it. Trying to be grateful. Trying to understand really how much abundance there is. Being able to see how lucky I was to ever get to compete. Getting to see how lucky I was to be in a body that worked for as long as it did and taught me what it did about confidence and discipline and all these other things because I excelled in it. Made me rewrite all that. And I think a lot of those tools that I kind of found in that hunt in my own darkness resonate with a lot of people. I like giving people the tools to change and how to let go of where you were. I've had to reinvent a few times. They're all still, all the parts of me from each chapter I like have come forward. The rest of it, I'm just continuing to shed.
Was there anything that surprised you about yourself when you pulled yourself out of the trenches?
I think losing the weight was one of the first things that really changed, that kind of really opened my eyes to like, oh shit, we can do whatever we want. Like we're fucking bound by nothing other than the actions we'll choose to take on a regular basis. Because weight loss or any of that doesn't have to be emotional. It shouldn't be. It's a fucking math equation. You know, it's realizing how much I'm leaning on food for comfort. Maybe I should find some other tools.
Yeah.
Maybe I should figure out some other ways to downregulate and stay in touch with myself instead of anytime I have a win, the standard move is to celebrate in a way that's a bit more self-destructive with shitty food or booze or any of these other things. Why wouldn't I do something that's more beneficial to the path I want to stay on? So I rewrite a lot of how I look at stuff, my perspectives of what I think standard practices should be for me. It's my boundaries. And those are the things that keep me on path. I think the big surprise in all that, man, was that you don't have to fucking be anything you don't want to be anymore. It is your responsibility to figure it out. But you're not obligated to fucking do anything.
Yeah. But the scary part about that is then you have to figure out.
But you had to anyway.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's not like a fucking reveal. Like you had to anyway. Otherwise, you just swap your time for this fucking mushy mediocrity your entire life.
Yeah.
Most of the time wasn't even done for you. Fuck that, man. You know how cool it is to be alive right now?
I fucking love it.
Dude, of all the time, like, I'm sorry that most humans have this shitty idea of history, which lasts about 50 years. But let's start looking at things when we start going back. Like, man, I've gotten to travel a lot now and go to some different places. And let's talk about 1,000 years, or 2,000, or 5,000, or 10,000, or 100,000 years ago. What fucking era would you prefer to be in than the one right now that we're communicating magically through this portal instantly across the world? Or the one with air conditioning, or the one with the abundance of food that I have available. The one where I don't have to go cut down trees today to make sure I can boil water so that I have something safe to drink, then to cook food with. Because that shit still exists. It's not for us.
Mm.
It doesn't matter that you lose sight of it and make it normal. Just because you don't look at it as magic doesn't make it not magic. I see. See how fucking cool it is to be alive right now? How cool it is to be one of the first people in human history that gets an opportunity to choose the stress I want to adapt to?
Yeah.
What a gift.
That's a
I
miracle.
won't waste it.
I saw the video you posted, I don't know, recently about basically having the power of God that we can get on airplanes. And I can go, like me and my wife just, bought some plane tickets to go out of the country early next year. And it's like, that's incredible. Like,
it's incredible.
Like all I have to do is go online and buy a ticket and I can go to another.
And I get to sit in a leather seat at 500 miles an hour and take naps.
Mm-hmm. And someone brings me food and
someone's going to complain about it. Like, it's not good enough.
And it's crazy,
man. I ain't lost on it. I would also be, it's not like God power, right? But it is definitely something like the gods would have. The ability to traverse things better than it's ever been. Even our road system and vehicles and everything else. Like, just because you lose sight of it doesn't make it not special. It is.
Mm-hmm.
I choose to focus on the abundance in my life. I choose to see it more than I pay attention to the problems. Problems are fucking there, man. Well.
Yeah. Let's pivot to talk a little bit about masculinity and men specifically. Do you think that right now in our culture there is an attack on masculinity, or how do you view that?
I've been told that. I guess I don't. Sure. I think it's really silly. As much discussion as there is around it and defining it and defending it and your Andrew Tates and everyone else, I don't. I'm bored by the discussion of it. My personal take on it and like what I teach is I really don't care for the terms masculine or feminine. I just don't see the point in why there needs to be this added, especially with things as confusing as there are now around gender. Like, fuck it, I don't even want to bother. And so what I describe masculine and feminine is for me is the balance between monk and motherfucker. It's the yin and the yang, right? It's soft and the hard. It's the light and the dark. And I'm not interested in being all motherfucker, and I'm not interested in being all monk. You need different sides for different occasions. This hard-edged motherfucker that I've got that can get some gnarly shit done when I'm in the heat of a moment, he probably doesn't need to show up at my wife's mom's funeral. Maybe I should have some fucking better skills to hold space and not be able to fix anything. Maybe I don't need to treat myself with the fucking hammer all the time. Perhaps I can use that little bitty screwdriver that fixes sunglasses, because hammers are terrible at doing what they do. But I want the capacity of both. I want the capacity to feel everything. I want to be in touch with all those sides. I want to be able to be present. I want to be able to fucking get so overwhelmed by the beauty of a moment that I fall into it. I want to be able to deal with my fears. I want to be able to face them. I want to be able to hold space and sit in love and understand vulnerability and intimacy. I want to be able to communicate impeccably. I don't want to be reactionary and stuck in that mindset. I don't know, that's typically attributed with masculinity. Because most of what I see around the whole identity of masculinity looks like insecurity.
Yeah. I love the motherfucker and the monk. I call it the warrior poet, and basically it's the same thing.
Yeah, same.
Which is perfect. Like, you have to be integrated in those ways. And I think that's where the issue is. Like you're talking about, like, I had my wedding a couple weeks ago at the time of this recording.
Correct.
And thank you. And like, I want to be in like the awe of the beauty of everything. like all these fucking people showing up that I love, that I'm fired up to see, my beautiful wife coming down the aisle in this gorgeous thing, and us saying our vows and trying to commit to something that's could be the most special thing that we ever have together is our relationship, and talking about maybe having, bringing kids into this world, God willing, and all. I want to be in those moments. I don't need to like be macho or tough or anything. I just need to be the poet and be able to express actually how much this person means to me and how much he's made my life better and literally saved me from fucking the darkness that I was in. I got to be able to express that. She doesn't know. Yeah, she might be able to feel it, but she doesn't know. I have to tell her. And I need to be able to do that. But I also need to be able to protect her if we're walking out of a concert and someone tries to do some weird shit. I need to be that guy.
Which one in your life has proven to be more valuable up until this point?
The poet,
to express
the poet
yourself
version,
or fucking actually defend yourself from this fake scenario that's never taken place.
Right. That's why I go into.
It's not worth. I'm not 100%. Saying don't train.
That's why I do jiu-jitsu, so I get it out of my system.
Yeah. I also have zero fucking interest in pacifism without the capacity of violence. That's not a choice. I want choices. I have the fucking capacity of violence. I make sure I stay fit. I make sure I stay trained. I make sure I do training. I make sure I educate myself and pay attention. Looking for an altercation, I'm not.
No.
I will happily talk my way out of any situation. I don't care if someone's right anymore. My ego is not fucking keeping me talking to an idiot any longer than I have to be. I don't fucking care what they think. They're allowed to think I'm whatever they want.
Yeah,
whatever allows me to move back frictionlessly to the path that I want to be on is what I'm going to answer with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of the, I don't know if you listen to Dr. Jordan Peterson, but one of his quotes that stuck out to me like a lot when I was really getting into his work a couple of years ago was, you want to become the most dangerous man in the world and then have it under voluntary control. And I like that word dangerous because most people equate that word to like someone who's bad, who does horrible shit. Sure. And dangerous doesn't mean that to me. Like Baker Mayfield says it on the field, like I'm going to be dangerous today. Like he's talking about being a good quarterback. Dangerous can mean whatever sort of connotation you put it into. But the most important part is having it under voluntary control. Like I know when to deploy certain actions in certain situations because I'm in control of me. But most people hear that Dr. Jordan Peterson thing. They're like, oh, you just want men to be dangerous and beat more people up. It's like, no, you're missing the whole fucking point.
Media and that we want to be a society that also consumes media in 7-second clips. And we wonder why they choose to use the most controversial version of it. Because this is what we've told them we want. Because we said we will not listen to long-form content with nuance. We're not fucking interested. This is what the bell curve yells all day. I want no fucking part of whatever the bell curve is interested in. Man, see too many people going one way, chances are I'm probably going to start going the other.
Yeah.
And if that conversation around masculinity and we are turned on by some of these characters out there, if following someone like Andrew Tate helps you get your shit together, great. I think that's great. I don't think I'm Andrew Tate's target demographic. And in the same way, he built a platform by saying a bunch of really fucking controversial shit in 3-second quotes, and then later comes around to fill things in more with a perspective that Jordan Peterson has around things that is a bit more realistic. There is more depth to it. I think fucking masculinities, how about being able to decipher fucking information? How about being able to use some goddamn logic? How about not being dragged around trying to fucking get validation from someone else about the things you buy and the bullshit you have? How about being masculine is just being confident and knowing who the fuck you are? But most people don't.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of the greatest gift we can give ourselves and for everyone if we are absolutely 100% confident who we are and who we want to be, regardless of, man, woman, whatever, right? That's like the most precious gift you can give, because then when you walk into a room, there's no shape shifting, there's no I'm trying to mold and maneuver into this spot so I fit perfectly into this little. It's like, this is me. Great. Another Dr. Jordan Peterson thing, right? Tell the truth if you want to have the most fucking exciting life. And I'm like, that's going to be true. It's true to tell the truth that it's going to be exciting no matter what the case is going to be, because you have no idea how people are going to perceive you, but you know that this is true to me and this is what I'm going to say. And, the consequences are always going to be better because of it, because you told the truth. And, that is what it is. And I think,
sure as fuck better than becoming someone that you don't want to be.
Yeah.
And especially if you allow that validation to dictate who you become, and then that removes any love you have for yourself, because you have this feeling of like, I'm accepted, right? But like, if they knew the real me, they wouldn't love me. If they knew the me I know, they wouldn't love me. And so I have to put on this fucking front, and I'm never confident to be who I want to be, because I've spent my whole life pleasing everyone except that little part of me that says, what about us? Spend a fucking life doing something that makes 8-year-old you and 80-year-old proud.
Yeah. I felt I used to be a professional wrestler, like WWE wrestler, Matt. And so I know like firsthand what it feels like to go out there and literally perform as someone else and then be that person all of the time and never want to be my own self. And it's very, very intoxicating. Very intoxicating. You're like, man, people are cheering for this Jackson Stone version of me. I'm like, oh, this is fucking cool. And they love me. I can't never be my regular self. But then like at any job, you spend majority of time being you. I was only wrestling 3 or 4 days a week. It was a lot, sure. Yeah. But like, I'm only in the ring for 15 minutes a night. Like there's a lot of other time, and so I get why that could be like, you don't want to be that person. But then now over time through some stuff and all this work that I put in, like I finally do like me and the way I present myself and who I am. And it's way less exhausting and it's very nice. It's like freeing.
I don't know when that clicked for me, but it was at some point very, very early on, like doing YouTube. And man, there's 2,000 videos on my YouTube channel. I've tried so many things. I vlogged for a few years. I filmed my own travel shows. I paid for them and did them and tried to get something going. And the channel found some moderate success, like 40, 50K, I think is what we're at. And I remember like when stuff started taking off, like all of the advice from anyone then is like, look at what's trending, make that. And I remember one of the ones I always got was like, hey, do a video talking about your tattoos. And I was like, no. No. Like, what fucking relevant information does that give anyone? Like, I get it's insight into my story, but they're fucking mine. And so, like, I remember at some point that's like, I'm going to make shit I want to make. That's the rule. Because that's sustainable. Otherwise, I'm a fucking clown. And I'm not interested. I've seen that trap to other people, man. I've been in the game long enough that I've seen people build a giant audience doing something weird like fucking eating or doing bullshit or doing extreme stuff. And guess what? Keep fucking doing it because that's what they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
That's your fault. You built that. That's a big trap. You built it. Congratulations. There was a time between now and then where you had said, I don't want to make one of these other videos again. And yet you do. And I didn't want to fucking do that, man. So I've always stayed really honest with myself about stuff, even with the apparel company. Last year I'm just not driven to do it anymore. It still works. It still sells fine. But I don't want to make anything. And so I'm going to let it chill. I'm not obligated to run it. Until I get inspired again and I feel connected back to what I want to create, I don't have to. Otherwise, it's a job. I like working. I'm not interested in a job.
Yeah. Powerful. So yeah, so with not dead yet, you talked about the apparel company, but also you have the coaching part of it, and you have a podcast now with it too. How's all that stuff going?
The podcast I've done since like 2017, and we've done a little over 500 episodes, and I've kind of cooled on it in the last couple years as it just didn't get the traction that I hoped it would, and we'd rather put the energy toward what does. And so really leaning into the coaching and really leaning into community and building experiences. And so, we've got our facility here in St. Louis, Dope, which is my office, but we open it every Sunday for free for anyone who wants to come in 10 to 2 and sauna and cold plunge and train and hang out and be part of it. And then that's kind of a vibe check for a lot of people. So they come in and meet us and hang out and do a thing. And if you're in and around the area and the vibe's good, like I'll give people access and they can come train whenever they want. It's free. It's a gift because I want to build community. And so I give a place for people to do it. And then hosting experiences like the retreats, meeting up with people and getting a chance to actually connect in real life instead of this digital format that we're so used to. Like, man, people say they want like-minded people to be around, but what they also mean is I hope they find me and then also come over here. And like, doesn't work that way, man. You got to go. If you know the people that you vibe with are over there and you sit still, that is you casting a vote saying, I don't care that much. It doesn't have to be convenient. The universe is not obligated to give you the people that you need to be around. Go find them. You live in a time where you're connected to more people than ever. And so building that community here and hosting the retreats, man, I love it. I've got clients that have lost hundreds of pounds and started businesses and changed their lives and eliminated habits and rebuilt intimacy with their couple, in a couple, all around discipline and habit changing and relationships. It's like all of the things that we look at as like what our goal is a side effect. What's the actionable thing you can actually do? And if you continue to do that, we'll take care of the other thing no matter what. Let's focus on that. And let's focus on why we do it. And it's helped so many people open themselves up to realize how much they have left in front of them. Instead of that feeling of just being stagnant, like I'm going to ride this out the rest of the time. That feeling of getting to this supposed place of success that you were supposed to get to and going, so this is it. We just fucking do this for the rest of it. We have less friends. We're around less people. It's less stimulating conversations, and it looks more like fucking autopilot based on a decision I made in my 20s around what job I should pursue. Long way to spend 50 years, man.
Yeah.
A lot of times people don't need to burn it down, man. It's a perspective shift to abundance. It changes a lot of it.
What do you mean, like, by burn it down? Just like crash everything, start all over, all new,
divorce,
fresh.
Move, change, blah, quit my job, quit my career, whatever. It's a midlife crisis.
You're saying people don't need to do that. It's just subtle shifts here and there.
Some people do.
Sure.
But a lot of what it is people not having a pursuit of anything they want to get better at. And then not having the perspective of how fucking great their life already is.
Yeah.
So once you get connected to that, man, you're not playing out of scarcity anymore. You're playing on house money. Life's already fucking great.
It is. Yeah.
And the only thing that changes from me right now in my life to 10xing my business or 100xing my business is extravagance. I already have one. Do all the things I want to do. I mean, nothing changes. I already have the best lifestyle that a fucking human being has ever been given the chance to have since creation started. Same with you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Like, and that goes for anyone who has time to listen to a fucking podcast about wanting to get better. That goes to anyone driving in an air-conditioned car thinking about ways you can change your life. Like, you get to have existential crisis because things are going really fucking great. Because if you're worried about food, water, shelter, being fucking eaten alive at night, what the crops are going to do, will we have food next week? You don't get to worry about like fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's new. We're really bad at it. But that's why we're new. It's new, man. Like 60 years ago, it wasn't this way. We're like the second generation of all humans to be in this actual era of abundance, and we just don't see it.
Yeah. It's like becoming the best version of yourself is a luxury, almost.
Right. Of
And
course it's a luxury.
We don't see it as that. We see it as like this tedious tax instead of like, this is fucking cool.
Well,
that I
fucking
can
luxury, man. Like, and look,
Yeah.
you can believe whatever you want, and that'll inform your reality. But I know what I believe. That's what I choose to believe.
Mm-hmm.
The only time that's really fucking important is now until I'm dead. What happens after that? No clue.
Yeah. I want to ask you just one question about your wife, about your partner. Because it's on top of my mind since I just got married and all that good stuff. But how is she made your life better?
Bonnie. She's my world, man. There's so much power and energy in her, and I'm so attracted to it. That fire helps me with a lot. It's someone else that's at no point has she ever tried to slow down any of the things I want to pursue. That doesn't mean she's on board with everything I want to pursue. Believe me, she checks me on crazy. But she trusts me that I'm doing my absolute best to become the best version of me. And I trust that she's doing the same with her life.
Yeah.
And what it's really allowed is, instead of us morphing into this single thing, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of her. I want to watch the show. I want to watch her accomplish her fucking goals. That's who I fell in love with. Fell in love with someone who wants to do things differently, who does want to push themselves, who does want to be accountable and see the world and experience these things and know as much about herself and everything else as she possibly can. Someone who is as curious as I am for adventure. She helps keep me focused on the stuff that actually matters, man, because I can get caught in it. Comparison, any number of things. Lack. But we both are so dialed in on it most of the time that we can always right the ship for each other. It's very rare that both of us are in a spot. Her goal is not to make me happy, and mine's not to make her. She makes herself happy, and I make me happy. And then together, we're fucking happy together.
Yeah.
We want to be together. We don't need to be together. Man, like on the days that I'm just hammering, like there's adventures and travels and retreats and all that shit, and I love it, but there's all the work. It's the writing, it's putting together clips, it's doing all the stuff, it's putting together courses and seminars and webinars and going to speak and planning what we say. All these things that come along with this role. And every time I've got 16 or 18 hours that I spend glued at this desk getting shit done, all I'm looking forward to is getting home and being on the couch and smoking a joint and watching a show with her. That's where I want to be.
Yeah.
Just there.
Do you think that your love for wife, husband, partner, whatever you call it, should be unconditional?
No. I think love that you have for you should be.
Yeah.
No, man, there's some hard boundaries. And like that's a bit of a complicated question, right? Because like can I have unconditional love for someone I don't want to be in a relationship with anymore? And by that definition, 100%. I can always love her.
Mm-hmm.
But loving someone doesn't mean that we're ideal partners.
Mm-hmm.
Found that out with my ex-wife. My ex-wife and I are still friends and love her dearly, and I'm so excited that she's remarried and has found someone and is happy. So yes and no. Like if the real question is stay together, unconditional love, then nah. But if it's can I still love that person and hold boundaries? Yes. So my boundaries don't change.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's like I will, no matter what happens with, me and my wife, I don't know I can't predict the rest of our life. I'll always, 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 always love her. At least I will try to keep growing in my love. That's my plan. But there are conditions to our relationship. There is conditions in terms of like, this is the person I fell in love with, and this is the person I want to grow in love with, but we both have to do our part in this journey together. And I think that's important.
It's a bit crude, right? But it's my responsibility to continue to be someone my wife's interested in fucking. Yeah, I know what she's attracted to. She's attracted to ambition and creativity. She's attracted to discipline. She's attracted to someone that gets shit done and goal setting. She's attracted to a leader. My awareness, my, whatever else it is. And if I quit developing those things, of course it'll fade.
Right.
That's on me.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way. I think so. I've had this conversation with some people, and they take it in a weird direction. Like I'm just like, I don't know, comes off as controlling or something. Like you're forcing your wife to do something. Like that's not the case. We made a mutual agreement. That's what making a commitment is. That's what making a partnership is. That we're both saying, this is the effort I'm willing to give, and this is who I'm going to be, and I'm holding you to that. That's what accountability is, and I know that's something that's also important to you. But like, I see nothing wrong with it, and neither did she, and so it's probably why we got married and are going to have a great life together. But that's what it is.
There's also, how many times do we hear stories of relationships that lose intimacy, lose anything, and it's two parents who were stuck on fucking autopilot. They both gained weight, neither of them are ambitious, and they're doing the exact same fucking thing every day.
Right.
Of course you're bored. Where's the excitement? Anybody like reading a fucking book that you already know how all the chapters go?
Yeah.
Like, no fucking way. Like, what good is that? Like, there's got to be some curiosity between you. It has to be some type of ambition of growth, some type of direction. And one of the things I really believe, right, is like some piece I love about the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It doesn't say life, liberty, happiness. It's pursuit of. That means it's progress driven. That means like it's doing a thing and getting better at it is where that real value lies. That value that I can learn, I can change, I can do these things. Like there's a reason I still take on weird shit. Like I'm currently building a van for us to be able to travel.
Yeah,
I don't know how to do any of this shit. Oh, well, that's the point.
Right.
Because my dream isn't owning a van. My dream was building a van. So I can't skip it. I got to go through all the fucking fuck ups. I have to go through all those feelings of I don't know what I'm doing. Let's just start cutting some wood and fucking some shit up.
Amazing.
Yeah, giving yourself the freedom to make mistakes is really nice.
It is. It is.
You realize how invaluable they are and how little the universe counts mistakes.
I think they're rewarded, to be honest.
That's on you, right? That's your perspective to figure out how to learn from it. I love my life right now, right? Like this is the absolute dream that I could have been in. I really believe that. And I'm not here without fucking having knee replacement. So thank you. Thank you for all those years of being fucking buried in it and not knowing I'd ever get out. Thank you for choosing to lose the 100 pounds. Thank you for choosing to do these other things and start a business. Thanks for being so fucking unreasonable. I'm not here without any of it. I mean, we all know that really simple idea, right? That like problems with time travel is that like if you can go back in time and you change one small thing, like it echoes through everything, right? Like the chaos theory or wings of a butterfly type, right? Well, how many of us look at the idea that right now you're at a spot that 10 years from now you wish you could come back to and make a small change?
Mm-hmm.
What's a small change you get to make today that really impacts 10 years from now? Adding a new habit? Is this the day it all changed? Could be. It's up to you. Not obligated to be who you were 5 minutes ago.
Yeah. It's a beautiful perspective.
The last piece I stole from Alan Watts, but being able to change its mind.
Yeah, blended it together. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Matt, is there anything that we didn't hit on that you'd like to talk about, or how are you feeling?
I'm good, man. I would love a chance to say that like anybody listening who's interested in what we do or the coaching or anything, please reach out. Shoot me a DM over on Not Dead Yet Life, our Instagram page. Let's connect and let's have a conversation and see if working together is a fit for you or one of the retreats or any of that. I'd love to drop you a link to put it in the bio or whatever about for the retreat info.
Yeah, it'll definitely be in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, I'm stoked on it, man. We have our men's retreat here in St. Louis in April, which is I keep to like 10 to 12 guys in a really tight container all weekend. That's my hard reset. And then in November of next year, we're going to be back in Montana for our Montana exposure.
Oh, Montana's beautiful.
Yeah. So we'll be up in Whitefish and have a full weekend. It'll be a really, really great weekend.
Awesome.
But these retreats have been the best. And so, yeah, if anyone's interested in that and wants to come dive deeper into some of the stuff I've talked about or mindset or accountability, I'd love to help.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Matt. I'm happy to know you. I'm pumped that we connected, and thank you for spending an hour and 15 minutes with me. Thank you very much for tuning into that episode. And if you enjoyed it, click right here for another full-length episode of the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe. But most importantly, above all else, please take good care of yourselves and others. And I'll see you next time. Lots of love. Cheers.